What's going on, y'all? Chuck and Unfaced here. Tonight we're going to be taking a look at this one right here. This is, of course, a knife I've been meaning to get to for the review table for a while, but for various reasons haven't gotten to it yet. But this is the Hinderer Project X. All right, so this is somewhat of a in-between knife for Hinderer, I would say. But yeah, let's go ahead and take a look at some specs here. If you haven't done so already, please consider subscribing to the channel. Turn on those notification bells, leave a comment, share the video out there. Kind of helps me out with the YouTube algorithm, help me to defeat that. I certainly would appreciate it. So as far as blade length goes, we're looking at about 3.5 inches, 1, 2, 3.5, with pretty much a 3.5-inch cutting edge as well. So you won't notice any big exaggerated choil on the Project X that you may notice on, say, the XM18 or the XM24. So it doesn't do that. You get a lot of blade, a lot of usable blade, with the overall length. And we're looking at about 8.6 inches overall length on this. Now, this is a full TI conversion. They don't come like this from the factory. You have to get a Hinderer scale, but it is all in the battle blue right there, or the working finish blue. I believe it's battle blue. Once they anodize it, it's called battle blue. So nice textured scales as well. And so, yeah, when you do have the addition of the titanium scale on there, it is going to add some weight to it, of course. So that is something that you need to expect. But yeah, let's go ahead and take a look at a few size comparisons. There it is with the Ontario Rat 1 in D2. And let's look at the Spyderco Endura K390. Let's see what else we got. We have kind of the usual suspects here. There is the Spyderco Native 5. It's going to be bigger than the Native 5, of course. There is a Buck 110. It's a little bit shorter than the 110, but you can see kind of how tall that blade is, which is really nice, and we'll kind of get into that a little bit more later. But there it is with the Buck 110. Kind of stick with a backlock theme here. The Demco Cold Steel 8010 Full TI. It's another big, hefty knife right there. Really like that one. Let's see what else we got. Here we go. One of my newest, we have the ProTech TR4, which I've really been liking, carrying quite a bit lately. Liking that one a lot. All right. Spyderco Military 2. I think you're kind of getting the idea of the size here, looking at the Military 2. And let's see, here we have an XM18. And XM24. And that's kind of really one of the reasons where it took me a little while to get to this review. I wanted to have both an XM18 and a 24 to compare and do a comparison with in this video. So you can see it's kind of in the middle between an 18 and a 24. Now, as far as overall length and blade length goes, it's going to be almost identical to an XM18. The 24 is going to be a little bit longer, but when we look at usable blade length, we're going to see we have more usable blade length than we do on the XM18, and it's really pretty much the same as you would get on the XM24, but it's going to be in a smaller overall package. So that's kind of what we'd be looking at. So that's what I say, or what I mean when I say it's kind of an in-between knife for Hinderer, right there. So you do get some more usable blade out of the Project X. And the really cool thing also about the Project X is if you look at it, yeah, it's got more usable blade than, say, the XM18. But it's also got a really nice, tall, flat grind right there, as opposed to this flat grind that's further down on this XM18 buoy, I should say. I broke my own rule. And so this is going to be really one of the better cutters in the Hinderer lineup. That grind right there really lends itself to a good cutting experience. So it's not super thin behind the edge, but it's not overly thick either. And the buoy grind isn't the thickest grind that Hinderer does. I would say that's probably going to be the Spanto. But the buoy's not too bad. But yeah, this, I mean, even not being a hollow or anything like that. Now this, of course, is a hollow grind that Satu Dave did. Scales by the Shutter Dug, grind by Satu Dave on this XM24. And so that one is going to be really slicey, but it's not stock like that. It's going to have a thicker grind like this XM18. However, this, while the grind isn't particularly thin and it is a flat grind, it's a very tall grind. So you do get a lot of real estate between where the grind ends right there and where it begins, with this blade being as tall as it is, where it really is a nice performer and a nice cutter. It really does go through, a lot of us cut cardboard with our knives, and it's going to perform really well in that regard. It's not going to get bound up or anything on a really thick wedge-like grind. So it really performs well. And speaking of performance and steels and things like that, Hinderer's S45VN is, in my experience, some of the best S45 that I've had. I will take a Hinderer in S45 over a Hinderer in 20CV pretty much any day of the week. Now, granted, I think, if you've kind of followed some of the drama from last year and everything else, Hinderer kind of getting into it with a reblade maker, on Instagram, and cease and desist order going out and everything else, and saying heat treat wasn't up to snuff and everything, and that may be very true. I can't say I've had a whole lot of trouble with Hinderer's 20CV. Your mileage may vary, but I would prefer overall their S45. I kind of always was of the opinion that Hinderer did a really good job with S35VN, and they do a really good job with S45VN as well. In my opinion, once again, your mileage may vary. But this stuff sharpened like a dream. When I put this on my KME and I started sharpening it, it really just took such a screaming edge. And really, in no time, in minimal effort, it did that. And so I was really impressed with the overall sharpenability of Hinderer's S45VN, and it's performed really well. Like I say, I haven't done tons and tons and tons of cutting with it, but I've done enough, and really all I've done is I've just stropped it. I haven't done anything else as far as reprofiling or touching up the edge. I've just dropped it with nothing fancy, just some green compound. Just kind of bring the life back into it. And just some white on this side. I really have not done anything fancy as far as maintaining this edge. And I've done stuff with it, like I say, I haven't really put it through its paces, but I've used it and carried it a fair amount, and it's done a great job. I've really been really impressed with Hinderer's S45VN. So in conclusion, the Project X, is it for you? I mean, it may be one of Hinderer's most utilitarian folders that they make. And it may perform better than a lot of people are expecting out of it. One thing, it is that in-between size. Now, while it's pretty close in overall size to the XM18, and just, it's not nearly as big. Well, not as big as the XM24. You get basically the same usable amount of blade in the Project X as you do the 24, and about a half inch more, or even a little bit more than that. And about a half inch of extra usable blade in the Project X over the 18. That's simply because it doesn't include these exaggerated choils, these finger choils that are right here in the 18, and of course the 24 as well. Now, Hinderer does make models that don't have the extended choil right there, but they're limited runs, so you're not going to be able to snag those very often. So I think this knife, for a lot of people, they may find it to be, the best overall user Hinderer. Now, one of the things that I can consider a downside would be the fact that, it does not have thumb studs. Now, by design, these are not supposed to be used as thumb studs. They are blade stops. They were never intended by Hinderer to be used as thumb studs. But of course, they can be used as thumb studs, to the point where Hinderer now does non-flipper models from the factory, where it used to be something that, modders and aftermarket people would do to their knives in order to just kind of just use them as a thumb stud knife and get rid of that flipper altogether. They were never really designed like that. Now, this knife, I think, could really benefit from having having some thumb studs on it, even if they didn't act as blade stops, because there is an internal stop pin here. I believe I haven't taken this apart in a while, but yeah, the blade rides on that stop pin right in there. If you can see it, it rides in it. So it's just kind of sandwiched in between these pieces of frame right here. The blade just rides in there and stops like that. The blade is already designed for it. It has these little cutouts right here, these grooves. So even if the thumb studs were added and they didn't make contact with this part right here, like they do on the XM series, even if they didn't do that, I think this knife could definitely be a thumb stud option knife. Satu Dave, I believe, did a conversion where he added thumb studs into a Project X for Mitch Bowling. I believe that is the YouTuber Mitch Bowling that that asked Satu Dave to go ahead and modify his Project X, and he put thumb studs on his as well as made him a titanium scale and all that. But yeah, I think this knife would benefit from having those thumb studs, but maybe they'll do that at a later date. And then lastly, I almost forgot, but this knife can be completely maintained just from this backspacer right here. Doubles as a tool. So all of these major components right here can be accessed from this tool that's included in the knife. So it's really field serviceable, completely field serviceable with just this little tool right here. Now, if you happen to lose this tool, and I doubt you would because it's really in there pretty strong, you're just not going to have a backspacer. You're going to have those barrel spacers in there that this would normally be riding on, but you'll still be able to use the knife completely fine. Like it's not going to affect its function at all. If you were to lose this, you would just need to use a set of tools. And as you can see right there, it is an Allen wrench with a smaller Allen wrench in the right there. And I believe the only thing you can't do with this small Allen wrench is you can do the clip screws if you want, but you can't do the detent. That's the one thing that's not serviceable by this little piece right here, the steel insert, I should say, the steel lock bar insert. So that would be the only thing that wouldn't be field serviceable with this tool. You can see the lockup right there as well. So yeah, the tool just kind of goes right in here. It is a little difficult to get out, but just kind of pop it in and put it in there, and it's probably not going to go anywhere. So yeah, that's going to do it. Appreciate you checking out the video. Let me know what you think in the comments. Is the Project X one that you like? Is it one that you've used, thinking about getting? Did my video maybe change your mind one way or the other? Let me know in the comments. Stay tuned for the next video. I certainly would appreciate you guys checking that out. I've got plenty of stuff in the pipeline. Thank you everybody who has subscribed to the channel. Consider subscribing if you haven't done so already, and stay tuned for the next one. Peace out, y'all.